Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Senior News Editor with Retail Insider. Joining me today is Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who is Senior Director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Thanks, Sylvain, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, let's talk about food prices. Obviously, it was a huge issue in Canada in 2023. Let's do a little recap first before we talk about where they're going. Let's recap what the food prices were like in the past year for Canadians.
Well, I mean, food prices did go up. The categories that really caught our attention were fruits and bakery, essentially. Those were the two sections where things got really complicated. But the real issue were shelter costs. It had nothing to do with the grocery store at all. People had to spend more to make sure they kept a roof over their heads. And when they show up at the grocery store, for 2 quarters, they actually spent less on food compared to the year before. So it really showed how challenged Canadians were when it came to grocery shopping in 2023. And of course, things slowed down at the tail end of 2023, and things got a little bit more predictable for consumers in general.
Yeah. So what when we're looking at costs to you and me, like how much more money were we paying on food in the past year?
Yeah, so for an average family of four, if you're looking at a healthy food basket, the average family of four had to spend about $1,300 more compared to 2022. So that was a huge hike. Now, of course, if you look at mortgages, if you were carrying a mortgage of $300,000, amortized over 25 years on a variable rate, you were likely paying more than $7,000 just to basically make sure you secured your payments. So if you add that extra $1,300 over that $8,000, it adds up, and that's why a lot of households felt just suffocated financially for a while there.
Okay, and what are the contributing factors for the hikes in food prices?
Well, I mean, climate change is a constant variable, if you will. Obviously, uh, a lot of people were talking about the Ukraine and COVID and supply chains. That's long gone. We didn't see. I think the last 8 months, those two major events weren't factors overall because you saw really gradually you saw the food inflation rate drop month after month in Canada. So, and that will still continue into 2024. But generally speaking, I would say that that the environment was a factor. Wages are going up. We've seen more than a dozen labor disputes affecting food retailers, manufacturers, everything really, logistics. So if salaries go up, costs eventually do go up, and so that's the other factor that we saw in 2023.
Wow, interesting. So what can we expect as we're in a new year now? What can we expect to happen with the food industry and prices?
Well, so we're expecting the food inflation tempest to end. I mean, we're always aiming to be anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5% when it comes to the food inflation rate. You want inflation. You want so demonizing inflation is not necessarily a good thing because you want inflation to grow the economy. But the problem is that the food inflation rate was high for quite a long time. Now we are going to continue to see that rate drop to about 2.5%. But mid-year, Mario, we actually are expecting some price wars, even at the center of the store. So
Wow.
economically, things are slowing down. Loyalty is an issue. Retailers are just seeing nomads all over the place. Nobody's loyal towards brands, towards stores anymore. We're all bargain hunters, and so I think that retailers will want to rewire us and becoming more loyal towards them. And to do that, of course, you need to offer them some good discounts, and some really luscious loyalty programs. And so we're expecting that probably mid-year to early fall.
So, and you kind of touched on this, just what you was talking about, but do you see more and more of the consumers going to I guess, the discount brands, whether they are the Walmarts or the Dollaramas of the world, or even some of the, the what do you call those offshoots of the big grocery stores, like the No Frills
The
and the
non-traditionals, yeah.
Freshcos, et
Or
cetera.
the discount banners, yeah, like
Yeah,
No
you see that
Frills and
more happening?
Freshco.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think all retailers have actually recognized that already. I would say that in many provinces, we've seen several conversions of stores, and we're likely going to see more of them. It is going to be a discounting market for a while now. Ontario is unique because Ontario has always been a discounting market, generally speaking.
yeah.
So No Frills is the number one retailer in the province for a reason, and so
Wow.
that's not going to change anytime soon. But we are expecting more consumers to continue to visit non-traditional grocery stores, like for example Giant Tiger, Walmart, Costco. I mean, they are going to do very well.
Yeah.
The interesting about Costco is that they were supposed to be raising their membership fees
Mm.
in December. They didn't do it, and why? Simply because loyalty is going to be an issue. They didn't want to scare off members. They have about 5 million members right now. They need them. They need them because it's going to be a competitive food landscape for the next little while.
Now, we know in the past year, the whole issue of, as I said, about food prices was in the news. Obviously, the federal government got involved in this and talked a lot about it. Maybe Sylvain, bring us up to date on the federal government and what it's doing or not doing in regards to this issue.
Well, so we've been full disclosure. We've been working with Minister Champagne since July of 2023,
Yeah.
and I think there's going to be more announcements down the road. I'm not in a position to say anything at this point. We are expecting some announcements in the next month or so in regards to what the minister intends to do. Of
Mm.
course, the minister is on record in saying that he's been calling different retailers around the world to and encourage them to come to Canada. Well, it's not that easy. You need to make Canada an attractive place to invest in the first place, and I'm not entirely convinced we've done that.
Mm.
Of course, the other issue is the code of conduct. The code of conduct is has become a priority for the minister and for the Minister of Agriculture as well, which is really a good news, really, because right now that's what we need to increase competition. Now the debate is around whether or not the code will be voluntary or mandatory, and we were seeing in the news different lobby groups advocating for one position or another. I actually think that a code cannot work if it's not mandatory in Canada. And so let's see how things go. But my guess is that both ministers, innovation and agriculture, will continue to pursue the code of conduct, and we are expecting the code to be launched this year.
All right. So on a personal level, Sylvain, what food group and food category hurt you the most this past year in terms of price hikes?
Well, I'm a big meat eater. We're big meat eaters, and of course, trips to the meat counter have been painful, to say the least, especially when it comes to beef, which
Yeah.
is a source I really enjoy. But we've actually made some changes to our diets. In fact, the one thing that we've noticed, and I think a lot of people have noticed, that pork is actually much cheaper now. It hasn't increased all that much, and so
Right.
certainly we'll be we'll continue to buy pork products in the new year for sure. Yeah.
So I'm just curious. Do you think many Canadians will change their eating habits because of the prices? Not only are they going to change their shopping habits, but their actual eating habits.
I think so. It's already happening now. The issue of of animal versus vegetable proteins is something we're working on right now, and what we're noticing is that vegetable proteins have actually gone up as much as the animal proteins.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that meat products are way more expensive
Yeah, I
than
know.
lentils and chickpeas, but that's not the case at all. And next week we'll actually be providing a report on this issue. But I think that the freezer aisle will become more popular just because the fresh section is a challenge for consumers looking for fresh produce, for example. So we are expecting more traffic there in the freezer aisle. Nutritionally, it's not much of a compromise, though. It's on taste. The taste is really different, but
Yeah.
nutritionally, you're getting the same bang for your buck.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, like, uh, when we look at the prices and, and what's happening, is there like a concern, a fear about the health of Canadians because they may not be eating what they should be eating or as much as they should be eating because prices are are kind of holding that back.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, back in April or May of 2023, when we saw the data suggesting that people were spending less at the grocery store despite inflation, you do wonder whether or not people are actually eating the same amount. Even Nelson IQ was on record earlier last year saying that on volume, there's less food leaving the grocery store across the country. So
Mm,
my guess is, I'm hoping that I'm right, is that that people are wasting less food.
yeah,
They're game to eat leftovers. They're repurposing some of the food that they have already,
yeah, yeah.
and they're more careful. Now, if people are buying less food and eating less, that's certainly a concern. But of course, we don't have any evidence of that at this point.
All right, it's wonderful. Thanks, Sylvain, for joining us today.
All right, take care.
All right, that was Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who is a senior director at the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, senior news editor with Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.